In the late 1960s and early 1970s, commercial fishing became a huge competition in the United States. Millions of new fleets of boats from the U.S. and other countries became competitive in the fishing market, driving fishing populations all over the world, and in the United States especially, to all-time lows, and in some cases, some species close to extinction. Both marine biologists and government officials believe that without a strict regulation on both the size of the fish kept and the amount of fish kept, many species would go extinct due to overfishing. Without size limits, too many people would keep sizes that are either too small or ones that are bigger that could produce more spawn or offspring, which would lead to higher populations. Without bag limits, the number of fish you are allowed to keep, too many fish would be kept, and we would end up back in the 1970s where fish were being depleted at high rates of speed. Size limits are in place in order to keep fish in the waters that are able to produce more spawn, which hopefully will increase populations and allow fish to become bigger. On many walleye lakes, the best way to increase the number of big walleyes, over 20 inches, that anglers can catch is to limit the number of mid-sized fish from 16 to 20 inches they can kill. This was presented by Minnesota DNR in 2012. In many instances out on lakes and streams, I have come across anglers who were keeping fish that were questionable in size, but the species it was did not have a slot limit or a number of fish they are allowed to keep. This keeps those smaller fish from becoming larger and able to produce more offspring of that species. Officials have responded to the collapse of the fishery stocks with a slew of regulations, many of them forcing fishing operations to be more selective in their harvest, whether by targeting certain species and regional populations, by mandating size or gender restrictions on catches, or by defining open and closed seasons for fishing. This was presented by Scientific America in 2010. By instituting limits on the amount of fish allowed to keep each day, we will in turn allow fish populations to grow back to pre-1970 numbers. In a chart presented by Mission 2011, it shows cods of all different subspecies of cods pre-1970, and when you get to 1970, they all have 1970 and after, when commercial fishing became popular, they all have a sharp drop. Some of these even took them close to extinction. But in 2000 to 2006, they started mandating regulations on fishing size limits and seasons, which allowed some of them to regain part of their population. Now they're level and not taking sharp drops and sharp raises. To comply with a congressional mandate to restore U.S. fish stocks to sustainable levels by 2014, quotas were set in New England for the first time on all species of ground fish. This was presented by Martin in 2010. Without these bag limits, fish populations would decline at a fast rate. Even with these limits, fish populations are declining because of more fishermen going to the high populated lakes and overfishing them. This is why the DNR adjusts limits from year to year to protect those populations. In 2000, the FAO stated that 72% of the world's marine fish resources are either fully exploited or in decline. This state of overexploitation has led to practices in cascade fishing, where smaller, immature individuals or different stocks of lesser value and quality replace the former stocks that existed in higher trophic levels, thus leading to the current declining trend in fish harvest from high-value demersal fish to lower-value pelagic fish. This was presented also by Mission 2011. Keeping fishing limits allows fish populations to thrive. If we do not instate these mandates to keep fish sizes into a certain size where you can keep, or keep the number of fish you can keep, each species will end up going extinct eventually, or we'll overfish them and there will be hardly any in the area. With strict regulations in place, we can ensure that fishing can be a recreation and commercialized for a long period of time. These regulations allow all of us to enjoy the sport while still providing food for our families. Any questions?
How does someone know what the regulations are?
Regulations are in DNR books, usually called fishing guides, that are in your local Walmarts or any really fishing store that sells your fishing license. It'll go over size limits, seasons, the number of fish you can keep, and any rules and license information that you need.
And do regulations stay the same from year to year and fish to fish?
Regulations can stay the same from year to year. Often they change because DNR does random testing or mandatory testing on fish populations in certain areas. If the populations are higher, they'll drop or they'll raise the amount of fish you can keep or the slot size. Or if they're lower, then they'll decrease the number of your fish and even maybe cut fishing out for that season.